right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Nature's Path cooking stage. Today I'd like to introduce you guys to registered dietitian and host of the Urban Vegetarian on Gusto TV, Desiree Nielsen. So today she will be demoing some gluten-free party foods so that you can have your New Year, New You fiesta. So today she will be making a chili spiked nut-free vegan queso that will pair perfectly with Que Pasa organic and non-GMO tortilla chips. Please give me another round of applause for Desiree Nielsen.
I've got my early birds here with me, which is awesome. So this morning we're going to make something super fun. I often find that there can be this misconception that healthy food is not fun food, it's not tasty food, and hopefully this recipe is going to help you dispel those myths once and for all. So we're doing a queso, which many of them, often when you see them online or in cookbooks, they're cashew based, which is really delicious. But I also find that one, some people are also allergic to nuts, and two, cashews can be a little bit pricey. So I wanted to try my hand at doing something using soy milk to give you that nice creamy flavor, but without the cashews. The other thing that I noticed when I was looking at a lot of recipes for queso is that they can often be very sweet. So they will typically use butternut squash as a base, and for my taste buds, they are just a little bit sweet. And so I am going to do something using carrots to give you that color, that nice orange color, a little bit of sweetness because it is a slightly sweet vegetable, but without like the overwhelming sweetness that butternut squash gives you. So we're going to start with a medium sweet onion chopped. And we're going to let that go for about 3 or 4 minutes while I roughly chop some carrots. Because everything is going to get blended, you don't have to worry about all your cuts being super perfect because it's all going to get mushed up anyways. So right now I am working on a cookbook called Eat More Plants. And one of the things that I've been noticing as I'm creating most of my recipes is that almost all of my recipes begin with garlic and onions. And there's a really good reason for that. There's a couple of good reasons for that, actually. The first is that when you're trying to build healthful plant-based foods, you really need to develop layers of flavor. And aromatic vegetables like garlic and onions are a really wonderful way to do that without relying on a huge amount of salt. The other reason why I love garlic and onions so much, besides my Mediterranean heritage, is the fact that they're incredibly nutrient dense. We talk so often about eating a lot of colorful veggies to get all of your phytochemicals, but in fact, garlic and onions, despite being very pale in complexion, have a ton of really important phytochemicals, namely ones based on sulfur that help support the liver and also help provide anti-cancer properties as part of a healthy anti-inflammatory diet. Okay, so with the onion, how is the view? Good? Okay. I'm not trying to get them really brown. I just want them to be nice and soft and glossy, so about 3 to 4 minutes before I add my carrots. So. So here I want the carrots to be soft. In order for the carrots to create this really nice base for the queso, Queso means cheese in Spanish. So a queso is typically the way we refer to a queso. It's some sort of cheese sauce, usually kind of Mexican inspired for making nachos or dipping. And so yeah, this is my queso sans any actual queso. And it's funny because we have fun food Fridays in my house. And so that's usually where it's like burgers or nachos or like poutine or all that kind of thing. And I have like a mixed eating family. So I have 2 dyed-in-the-wool carnivores in my house, 1 vegetarian, and then myself, who's almost exclusively plant-based. And so the queso comes out when we make nachos, and my family loves it, but I haven't quite convinced them yet. They still have their cheesy nachos, and then they use my queso as a dipping sauce for their cheesy nachos, where I cover my nachos in the queso as my cheese. But one of the things that I feel really lucky about, because I have 2 kids, I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, is I have really good eaters. Really good eaters. Normally when I complain that they're not quote-unquote eating everything, it's because it's their 3rd kale salad of the week, and they're like, Mom, can I just have a grilled cheese? All right, so trivia question for you. The vast majority of the carrots we consume in North America are orange. But does anyone know what color carrots originally were? Purple. Yeah. So when you see these like beautiful rainbow carrots, those purple carrots are actually the OG carrot. And the reason why orange carrots became popularized is they were bred to suit the House of Orange, which is the Dutch royal family, and their color was orange. And so we have like an orange carrot monopoly because some very fancy Dutch people liked it. All right. So this is literally the most time-consuming and labor-intensive part of making this whole queso. The rest is all about placing things in the blender and blending. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Again, just sliced. It doesn't have to be minced up really fine because it's all going to get blended. Let that go for another minute. We'll see. I think those carrots need some more time. So let's start filling up our blender. All right, so into the blender, we are going to do 1 cup of plain unsweetened soy milk. When you're shopping, that's the one thing to look out for. If you just grab the original soy milk, you're having a sweetened product and you are going to get a much sweeter queso, which if you like that, that's fine. But we're going to keep ours on the savory side. One of the reasons why I'm choosing soy milk as opposed to an almond or a cashew milk, which are also cool, is that it's creamier. It's creamier and richer, and it also has more protein, so it's going to give you that nice silky mouthfeel that you would get using cashews without the cashews. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to add chili powder. One of the things that's really important when you're cooking is to taste and to know your ingredients. Great example, fresh jalapenos. If ever you're using fresh jalapenos or even a new jar of pickled jalapenos for the first time, taste one. There can be a dramatic difference in spice level. The same thing with chili powder. So chili powder can be actually relatively mild or it can be very, very spicy. And I actually created this recipe for the Que Pasa team when we were doing this tour for Food Bloggers of Canada, and we had this new chili powder that I just dolloped right in, and it was way spicier than the one I developed the recipe for, and so everyone got a nice little bit of heat. Okay, so we're going to use a half a teaspoon. And if you like the heat, you can totally doctor it up and add a little bit extra. Also going to use cumin. Cumin is another spice that ends up in a lot of my recipes. My Portuguese grandmother put cumin in pretty much everything, and so do I. All right. How are we doing here? All right, these carrots are almost done. You can see they're just getting a little bit of a nice brown golden edge there. Okay, we want about a half a teaspoon of salt. And then a tablespoon of tomato paste. And if you guys don't buy tomato paste in the tube as opposed to the can, you are missing out. Because I don't know about you, you typically buy those little cans and like you use like 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. And then you have the rest of this can and you kind of intend to do something with it the rest of the week that you don't. Or you put it in the freezer and then all of a sudden you have these little ice cubes of tomato paste that like a year later you forget were actually in your freezer. And then you're like, oh, I guess I better make some stew. All right. I'm going to turn that off. There we go. These always freak me out, these like very big industrial stoves. All right, so. Okay. And then 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. If you've got fresh lemons at home, squeeze the lemons. And then a half a cup of nutritional yeast. So what really gives you that cheesy, umami-rich flavor is nutritional yeast. This is my BFF in the kitchen. It is a very old school kind of hippie ingredient, like 60s, 70s. Everyone was sprinkling nutritional yeast on everything. If you want the best popcorn topping in the entire world, sprinkle this on your popcorn after you pop it, and you will never look back. I get a lot of questions about, well, where does this actually come from? This is yeast, but it is inactivated yeast. So it's not like bread yeast. It won't actually help anything rise. When you add nutrients or liquid to it, it's not going to sort of turn on and become this fermenter. It's also different than brewer's yeast because I had this question yesterday. If it's a byproduct of beer making, will it actually have any gluten from the barley? This isn't. This is very different. And for people on a plant-based diet, there are brands of nutritional yeast that have B12 added to them. So it's a great source of plant-based B12 in a diet that otherwise won't have any. So where do you buy it? You will be amazed. Once you're looking for it, you'll realize that every supermarket has it. So they will either have it in the baking section or in the kind of like bulk goods area, like Bob's makes nutritional yeast. There's a couple of local companies now that do their own nutritional yeast. I shop at Donald's and they have it in like the Bob's section and the baking section. So it's there. Yeah, and can you see it's like little orangey flakes? You see that? Yeah, and it has a very cheesy kind of umami smell and taste, and it's absolutely delicious. Right, so that's why we're going to use a whole half a cup of it. Typically B vitamins. So what nutritional yeast is really giving you, it's giving you a little bit of protein, but B vitamins, because B vitamins are a really common end product of fermentation. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we have our soy milk, chili powder, cumin, salt, tomato paste, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, Dijon mustard. I go through warehouse size containers of Dijon mustard in my kitchen. It gives a really nice depth of flavor. It actually pairs really well with things that are cheesy. It gives a nice zip that you would get from an aged cheddar. All right, now a 1/4 cup, roughly, of pickled jalapenos. This is where the heat comes in. I'm going to do slightly less, just in case there are people who don't love the heat as much. You can absolutely use fresh. You know what pickled gives you is a little bit of extra zing from the vinegar, but also extra salt. So you might want to doctor up your seasoning a little bit more if you're using fresh. And again, with that fresh jalapeno, make sure that you taste it first, because I'm finding now that there are jalapenos that even with the seeds are very, very mild. And this week as I was doing recipe development, I didn't follow my own advice for the first time in a long time, and I made this chutney with a little bit of jalapeno that was like solar flaming hot, and I essentially made a hot sauce as opposed to a chutney. Okay. And then for the same reason, we're adding just a teaspoon of pickling liquid. So if you were going to use fresh jalapenos, you could use a little bit of apple cider vinegar. All right. Okay, we've got our garlic, onions, carrots. And this is also the other thing that I like about this recipe is that it shows you that there's a lot of really easy ways just to get more vegetables into your diet. Like, this doesn't seem like, you know, if you're having nachos, you know, my children always complain. They're like, Mom, do you have to put the black beans and the tomatoes and all that other stuff on top? When the veggies are already in the queso, they're totally down with it. There we go. Now, all we're going to do is blend. If you have a high-speed blender with heat, you can put it on the soup setting or just blend it on high so you get that additional heat. If you don't and you want to keep this warm, you just then put it on low heat back into your saute pan to bring it up to the temperature that you want. So the other thing that you can do too, if you want it a little bit thinner, is just test it out. And you can always add more soy milk if you want it more pourable. If I can ever get this thing open. It's got such a good, no, it's a, yeah. It's a bit thick, so I'm gonna add a little bit more soy milk. The other difference between a conventional blender and a high-speed blender is that a high-speed blender will liquefy all the ingredients, so you'll get naturally a higher volume than you will from a conventional blender. So just adjust the recipe accordingly, because I created this recipe using one of those high-speed blenders. There we go. Awesome. While we wait for this to puree, do you guys have any questions about gluten-free living or dairy-free living? Is there anyone who's here for the first time and is new to gluten-free? A few people. Awesome. Let's see. What have been the most difficult foods to replace for you? Yes. Nice. Okay. So you're doing a lot of the stuff on your own then. Oh, you bake and cook for her? Oh, lucky you. You know what? It actually keeps for a while. So I kept it in my fridge for 4 days quite easily. Yeah. And then you can just taste it. I do find that the flavors tend to mute a little bit. So you might want to use a little bit of extra chili powder, sometimes a little bit of extra lemon juice to kind of like wake up the flavors again. All right, I'm going to give it one final blend and then we're ready to taste. All right. There we go. So what you're looking for is pourable, but kind of like thick and rich, like a cheese sauce. Okay. Yeah, good. There's a little bit of heat to it, but it's not too crazy. So we're serving these with Que Pasa organic tortilla chips. One of the highlights of my Food Geek year was actually seeing how they make these over in Delta. I also have, when we give these out, I have the recipe for you. And yesterday we did a crunchy avocado fry with Nature's Path Mesa Sunrise cereal. And so you are super ready for Cinco de Mayo with these two recipes. Or a Super Bowl party, if you like that football stuff. I like how I'm like unwittingly filling 2 cups at the same time. The pours down the side. Okay. So again, for everyone, this is a dairy-free, gluten-free, and nut-free recipe. Yes. Oh, I still can't hear you. Okay. Okay, awesome. Project. Yes. So you could absolutely, if someone can't have soy, you can absolutely substitute. I find that oat milk is a nice substitute in terms of body and creaminess. It's gluten-free oat milk. Cashew will also have a nice mild flavor that'll be a little bit creamy but lighter in texture. Yeah, you can play around with whichever one. Or if they can have nuts, you can just make a really quick soaked cashew milk too. There we go. Thank you. All right, watch the mess. I always make a mess in the kitchen. That's my MO. Amazing. So any other questions? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna have to step down because with all the din, losing my hearing. Oh, the tomato. So the tomato paste was just the house brand from Whole Foods, but there's a lot of Italian companies that make. So at Donald's, they have like all these like old school Italian brands, and I find those there pretty nicely too. Yeah. It's such a good, it's a very European thing to put everything in tubes, and I feel like it's just starting to catch on here, but particularly for tomato paste, it's much better because you just keep it in the fridge and use it as you go, and it lasts a lot longer. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, pre-minced garlic. Yes, it is being passed around. So you're going to have a recipe card with the queso and then with the crunchy avocado fries as well. Yay, good. Awesome. See, and it's veggies. It's veggies and soy milk. Oh, thank you. Because it's in reruns. It's like in reruns now, my show. Yeah. No. Amazing. Yeah. Awesome. Well, have an amazing day at the show, everyone. And we will see you soon. Be sure to go, if you haven't, Que Pasa is doing chip flights today at the booth. So if you want to have more yummy tortilla chips, go check them out.